9mm+P versus 357 Magnum. What I have today is our Hornady American Gunner ammunition. Our 357 Magnum is a 125 grain XTP bullet rated at 1500 feet per second. Our 9mm+P is a 124 grain rated at 1175 feet per second. So I'm going to use my Smith & Wesson Model 686 with a 4-inch barrel to test the 357 Magnum, and the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 2.0 with a 5-inch barrel to test our 9mm+P. A lot of people get confused and they say, well, that's a 5-inch barrel pistol and that's a 4-inch barrel revolver. You got more barrel with the semi-auto, but actually you have more barrel travel with the revolver being a 4-inch barrel versus a semi-auto 5-inch barrel, because part of the measurement of a 5-inch barrel in a semi-auto is counting the chamber. So you minus 1.1 inches of that cartridge or so, you're talking about, 3.9 inches versus a 4-inch barrel. So interesting, when I look at this ammo, I look back at some of the stuff I've done, and I really haven't tested this stuff much. I've never tested this. I've tested the 115 grain once through a 4-inch barrel of our 9mm, but not the 124+P. And I tested the 357 Magnum once in this revolver, but it was through water jugs like 6 years ago. So I'm really interested to kind of see what we'll get in a ballistics gel test. So I am going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. Then I'm going to do my 10% clear ballistic test. We're just going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential of those cartridges are. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to use any denim or anything like that on this first shot. We're just going to go into plain clear ballistics, see if we get bullet expansion on all of that, see what kind of penetration we get. And then I'm going to do more of our real world simulation, where I have 4 layers of denim on this first 3-inch piece that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we're going to have a 1/4-inch medium density fiberboard that's going to represent hitting ribs or sternum, and that'll be more of our real world simulation. And then I'm going to shoot at the steel to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. All right, first up we have our 9mm 124 grain +P rated at 1175. I believe that's through a 4-inch barrel, so I'm hoping to get more than 1175 through my 5-inch M&P here. So let's see what we get here about 5 yards from that target with our 9mm +P. Let's see what we get. .1243, 1280, 1275, 1221, 1266. A couple error reads there, but yeah, we're definitely above that 1175 feet per second rate of velocity. Now our 357 Magnum, in the past when I tested this, I was pretty disappointed at the velocity numbers we were getting. I believe Hornady uses an 8-inch barrel to get the 1500 feet per second rate of velocity here, but the industry standard for a 125 grain bullet through a 4-inch revolver is 1450 feet per second. So I'm expecting to see 1450. Hopefully they fixed their ammo, made it right. So let's see how close we get to my expectations here. 1355. 1305, 1329, 1318, 1342. All right, so it's definitely better than what it used to be. It's not quite where I want to be for velocity, and there is a massive amount of flash with that and a good amount of sharp recoil. It kind of feels like an overloaded fast burning powder, not a typical Magnum powder, but nonetheless the velocity is not too bad. That's pretty much the spot on with what I get on my hand loads with 125 grain XTPs when I go to the max charge of about maybe 7.5 grains of tight group powder. Kind of feels about the same, but not too bad velocity overall. So let's hit our ballistics gel block, see how these two compare. All right, we're going to do our best potential shot, just plain clear ballistics. We don't have any denim to clog that hollow point. We don't have any rib simulation to slow down penetration. So let's see what our best potential is here with our 9mm+P. All right, 357 Magnum. Let's see what this does. Let's go take a look. All right, so both of them look like they did pretty well. There's quite a big difference here though in our first 3-inch piece here. Both of them looks like they expanded right away. There's no doubt in that. But you know, we see busted off pieces of a lead and possibly the pedals with our 357 mag on top there. So a lot of immediate energy dump, a lot more than what I would have expected. So what we got with both of these is a whole bunch of tearing damage right away. That would indicate a lot of energy dump and stopping power to dump that energy. And we can see with both of these that this is cutting, that this is pedals cutting rather than just, you know, bubbles expanding out. And I can see some pretty big pedals sticking out there with our 9mm. So really impressive overall, honestly, to see what I'm seeing here with this 9mm. A lot better than what I would have expected. We're at about 15¼ inches of penetration. A lot of times in the back of that black, the parallax of this camera is awful. It makes it look like the bullet's up, you know, way up here, but really it's right here at 15¼ with our 357 Magnum. I can't see that bullet behind some of that bubbling there, but what we're looking at there is about 15¾ inches of penetration. So only about a ½ inch difference in our penetration. Energy dump is similar between both of these. I would say our 357 mag, I guess, did a little bit better because it looks a little bit more destructive in there, but very similar overall. So let's put on our denim, put in our MDF, see how they compare that way. All right, 4 layers of denim, 3 inches of clear ballistics, a 1/4 inch MDF, more of our real world simulation. 9mm, see what this does. All right, let me set that back up. We'll hit it with the 357 Magnum. All right, 357 mag, more of our real world simulation. Let's see what this does. Go take a look. All right, so in our first 3 inches here, our 9mm on the bottom, our 357 on top. Quite a bit more energy dump with our 357 Magnum, and we had some of those busted off pedals again going on. And then when we go through our medium density fiberboard, both of these had really good expansion. Our 9mm on the bottom looks like it entered this with a little bit more size than the 357, but the 357 looks like it was fragmenting. That's why it's a little smaller. And there's a piece of fragmented lead in that fiberboard. So both of them look like they did quite well going through the denim and MDF. With our 9mm, you know, really good damage overall. It performed admirably. I would say that did really well for just being an XTP bullet. We got a penetration of 14 inches, and you know, generally the MDF takes away a couple inches of penetration. This bullet's gonna be a little smaller than what it was through plain gel. So if that MDF were not in there and this bullet diameter were exactly the same, instead of 14 inches, we'd be somewhere around 16 inches. But the size of the diameter always changes through that MDF and denim. But overall, pretty good at that 14 inches. Our 357 Magnum, pretty much the same damage, maybe just a tad more, but very similar. And we went a little bit further, and that bullet looks a tad smaller, but we're at about 16 to 16¼ inches of penetration. So honestly, both of these did really well for what they are. I'm kind of surprised at how well they did, to be honest here. So, you know, one of the main selling points of this ammo is the price. I think I bought that 25 round box of 9mm for something like $16 to $18. Very, very good price for ammo nowadays. And we didn't even get any jacket separation or anything like that. So that's really good for performing so well. Our 357 Magnum, I think I paid maybe $22, something like that. Maybe it was $19.99, I don't recall. But it wasn't that much for a 25 round box of 357 Magnum. And it did quite well also. It had quite a bit of flash though, so I would probably pick something different. But when it comes to that 9mm, that's a pretty good ammo because it's cheap enough you can just about use it as your target ammo also. So it's pretty good overall. So let's take a close-up look at these. We'll take these out of the block. We'll take a close-up look. I'm going to shoot my steel. See what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So here's a close-up look at our bullets going through plain gel. Our 357 Magnum right here. Pretty good expansion. With our 9mm though, we have really huge, sharp pedals. Those are pretty gnarly. That would cause some serious damage. Now generally when we see stuff like this, you know, at some point, this 357 looked like that, but because it hit with more energy, it basically, those pedals peeled back more, and sometimes they bust off. So it's kind of deceptive looking at these. You might say, well, that did 10 times better. Well, this did this. This did the same as this, but then it peeled them back, basically. That's because we have a little more energy. And we can kind of see that going on here when we go through a medium density fiberboard, because here's our 9mm through a medium density fiberboard. It peeled them back, you know, because we're hitting something a little bit harder. And with the plain gel 357, we're just hitting hard regardless. But with something like this, it needs to kind of encounter a little bit harder barrier for those petals to peel back more. So still, we got really good expansion. I would guess that's over 1.5 times still. So really good overall. A 357 Magnum did pretty much the same thing through a medium density fiberboard as it did through plain gel, because it's hitting harder. It's hitting the target harder regardless of whether there's a you know, fiberboard in the way or not. So 357 here pretty much look identical between the both of these. Our 9mm, more petals going through our plain gel, and just a little bit bigger expansion though than these after going through our rib simulation, probably because pieces of this lead are busting off. With the 9mm, just a little bit less energy, so it's not busting off. So overall though, both of these did incredibly well in our terminal ballistics test. So that's really surprising, honestly, to see how well something like a basic, cheap XTP load did pretty well. So that's a close-up look at those. All right, I decided to just come right back to 75 yards. I really love shooting from distance like this. It just gives me a challenge. It's fun to shoot for me, especially when I have my little bit longer barrel handguns out. So I want to see how I can do with this 9mm+P here, see if I can hit the target. All right, it was moving kind of fast there, so I did get a couple of them, or a few of them got away from me. But overall, I'd say the shootability and accuracy is pretty good. Now our 357, this had some flash, so I don't know what to expect with this stuff. I won't be able to tell where I hit because it's so much flash coming out of that muzzle. I don't know where these are hitting. I believe they must have been shooting high because I didn't hear any impacts. And then I aimed at the base of that target, and then I heard a couple. So I'll just keep aiming kind of at the base of that target again. I just went a little bit faster, think I could hit those, but I was way off. And those, I mean, those have a lot of flash. That would scare somebody. Keep going here. Alright, so normally I do a little bit better with 357 mag to this revolver. And like I was thinking, I could not tell where they're hitting. You know, I'm trying to keep my eye on the dirt and see if they're hitting right or left or low or high. But there was such a fireball coming out that I cannot tell. The few hits I made, I was aiming at the very base of that target. So overall, the shootability of this stuff, at least for me at any distance here, is not that good. I know a lot of people will get on here and start giggling and be like, 75 yards. But if you go back and watch some of my older videos where I'm shooting 357 mag from this distance, you'll learn something. But yeah, it's just kind of hard for me to find where those were hitting with the 357 mag, but with the 9mm they were hitting spot on. So looking at this ammo overall here, this is pretty easy to judge. Now both of them did well through full-size handguns here, so if you had to use either of these for personal defense, you know, both of them did well. And I'm going to say, you know, the terminal ballistics portion here, right into that gel, I would say, you know, our 357 mag did a little bit better. However, this is the point where a lot of people just stop and they'd be like, well, the 357 mag won. Have a good day. back it up here. The 357 mag did a tad better through our terminal ballistics testing, but the recoil was significantly higher. The shootability was significantly less. The amount of flash that we had going on was super high with the 357 Magnum. Our 9mm did pretty much 90% of what the 357 Magnum did in our ballistics gel, but it did it extremely easily. Very little recoil. The price of this ammo is cheaper. The shootability is so much easier. So overall, like, our 9mm won this test here if we're going to compare them as a competition, because it did really well for what we're working with. So that's what you get today. Both of them did pretty well, but I mean, I would pick this 9mm myself if I needed a whole bunch of rounds, but 357 mag, I'm going to pick something else than this, because for the amount of flash and recoil, we might as well go up to an Underwood and have even less flash and actually get 1500 feet per second through this revolver. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.